Hello, I'm Shauna, passionate about pages and delighted to be playing with photos of my trip to Oslo in Norway last year. The purpose of the video today is to use 3 of the Sale-a-Bration products that are still available until the 28th of February, but mostly to introduce you to my one print, one plain sketch series. So the idea of this is that, you know, when you get to the end of a paper pack and you have like one sheet of printed paper left and you're just like, oh, how am I going to use that? If you combine that with one sheet of plain cardstock, you can do amazing things to create 2-page layouts. I have 10 sketches in this series, and this first one I'm gifting to you for free here today on YouTube. So the idea of the sketches is that you will use both sides of the paper and bring in some cardstock, as I said, in different ways. You get a free download today that you can use if you want to. It includes supplies that you could use if you're wanting to make fast pages. Okay, so they're pages with very minimal decorations or no decorations at all on them. Fun pages where you elevate it a bit, or today I'm going for slightly fancier. You get a cutting guide, shows you how to cut the double-sided printed paper. We're working with 12 by 12 papers, and so I've coloured the yellow represents one side and the blue represents the other side, and then a guide for the plain cardstock. Each sketch has a few tips and tricks as well. So today I'm using photos of a visit to the Folk Museum just outside of the CBD in Oslo, and I decided that you know, the feel of these photos went very well with the gorgeous Bloom Inspiration Pack that's part of Sale-a-Bration. So this one, I don't think that the catalogue does it very much justice. Okay, Bloom Impressions it's called. But this is my second pack. I have used and used and used this paper. It's beautiful. So there's lots of very subtle, soft patterns. I'm using a slightly brighter one today. There's this one. And then there's some water wash and some more subtle patterns. So what I did was I just auditioned my photos next to them, and I decided that I really liked the blue here, because we had a beautiful bright blue day, and the floral kind of went with the little, are these begonias? Whatever this plant is. You can tell me in the comments if you know. So I've had a little play there, and then I looked through some of my other Sale-a-Bration goodies, and I thought, the heart-shaped bundle will be perfect because it has some of the little flowers, which will go really well. It has a stamped wreath, but what I'm using today is the die cut wreath, and then there's a few other die cuts. This one cuts that little group of 3 flowers, this one cuts a title, and you've got other little accents on there. I won't be using any of the sentiments because they're definitely for cards. This one, My Heart Loves Your Heart, just because I care. They could work for some scrapbook pages, but not this one. And then for my part of my title, I'm bringing in the Documenting the Day stamp set. I won't be using yellows and reds on it, but this was one I was playing around with earlier in the month, and so it just gives me an idea of spacing, basically. All right, so using the handout, and be sure to wait to the end because I have 4 other 2-page layouts that I've made using this sketch, and everyone looks different. Okay, so when you have a look in this one, those 2 vertical panels are centered here, whereas I've put mine on the outside. If you rotate the sketch, you can have those long panels on the top or the bottom. The photo wells in the sketch are all 6 by 4, but as you can see here, you can make a 6 by 4 into 2 3 by 4s to fit in. And then the ones that go over the larger piece of paper can really be any size you want. Like, you know, you can trim them down so there's more of the paper showing, which I will show you in some of the extra layouts at the end of the video. So what I'm going to do today is just show you how quickly and easily this comes together, following the sketch and so on. So I'm going to pop that over there, and what we're going to start with is the plain cardstock strips. So for this one, because we're only using one sheet of cardstock, I am creating the illusion that it is mounted by just putting strips around the edge of my paper. Now the easiest way to do that is to use a product called adhesive sheets. And when I add up all these strips, it's about 2.5 inches worth of cardstock that I need. So I'm going to cut 2 3/4 inches to be on the safe side. This is double-sided, two-toned. Oh dear, I just got this and thought, oh, the blade's fallen off. No, the blade's right there. Right, I'm up off the floor now. So I'm going to cut that 2 3/4. The adhesive sheets are 6 inches wide by 12 inches long, and you get 12 in a pack. And they're designed that you can apply adhesive to paper before you cut it with the die cut, all right? So I'm just going to cut this one at 2.5 inches so that it doesn't hang off the edge. Now when you look, one side has like a little cut on the paper and one side doesn't. So we're going to peel off from the cut side, and you just bend it and peel back a bit, and then I just fold that over. So I've got a little tab. Now I can pop this down, get that one going, and tear off the rest. And once you have that all stuck down, just come in and pull off the other bit of backing paper. And again, don't yank it all off. Just make sure that you're going to get the top bit nice and smooth, and then bring it down bit by bit and pull off the rest. Okay. This now can be cut with the adhesive in place. So I'm just going to cut one of the 1/2 inch pieces to show you. When you're ready to stick it down, you'll just peel the other bit of paper off, and it will have adhesive on it already. I use this when I'm cutting alphabet letters, when I'm cutting small shapes that are going to be fiddly to glue down. The other way I use it is to make journaling strips. So with Close to My Heart, we had adhesive backed journaling strips that we could buy, and they were really, really popular, and I love them. And so as mine are running out, I needed to find an alternative way to create that. So I just took some white cardstock, put the full 6-inch piece over the back of it, and then I can cut them into strips as wide as I need them. And I'll just keep this with this pack so that I know that's where I need to go for my journaling strips. Okay, so off camera I'm going to do a little bit more work, and then I'll show you how to stick it all together. Alrighty, so I've finished the left-hand page. I've done my journaling. I've done a little like place name there, and a bit of decoration here, and I'm going to incorporate that some over onto this side. So the way that you assemble this one is that you start from the inside edge, and if you use a ruler and find the 3/4 inch mark, 3/4 of an inch in from the side, and then bring in these 3 images. So this one is also going to be just over 3/4 of an inch. So it's going to be about there. What's that? 7/8, I believe. 7/8 of an inch. If you're not a measuring person, don't worry, don't measure, just eyeball it. I'm sure it will work. And then once you've got that first one measured, the others just butt up to each other. So this particular one here, I've stamped on that using the Documenting the Day stamp, and I chose One Fine Day. I was going to put Documenting the Day, but I didn't actually write a lot about it. So One Fine Day seemed to work for me. Now, you'll notice that this goes beyond the level of my photos, and that's because the photos I'm using today I printed on my selfie Canon selfie printer, and they aren't a true 6x4. They're it's not a full 1/4 of an inch less. It's maybe 3/16 of an inch less, but by butting them up on the side here, I can cover up that little bit of overhang. I've taken the adhesive off the back of this cardstock, and I'm just carefully butting it down. Don't try and put the whole thing down, because if it's in the wrong spot, you won't be able to lift it back up. Alrighty. Oops, might have been a bit oopsie there. Have to try and cover that. And then butt up the last one. So the height of the photos is also not exactly 4 inches, and that's why I had to trim down the length of these pieces to fit, and obviously my measuring wasn't quite accurate there, but the rest of it I followed the instructions on the handout. Now over on this one, I trimmed down this photo. There was a lot more of the pebbles on the edge of the photo, and there was a bit of the house there, which was just a distraction because it was that pinky colour. So I trimmed there first and then off here, and by adding that little tab, which comes from the die cuts in this set, right, that sort of takes your focus away from the pebbles on there. This one now, I think I'm going to trim a little tiny bit off the sides as well, so that there's just a smidge of the patterned paper that shows through. So like really a smidge. That's a technical term. There'll be a test on it later, exactly how much a smidge is. But, maybe, I don't know, is it a 1/16 of an inch? Something like that. And this one, I'm going to put the bottom of both photos level there, okay? So you'll see that putting this together, especially if you're using true 6x4 prints, it just comes together really quickly and easily, okay? This little bit is going to tuck down under here, like that, and I'm going to add a little bit more. This was an old school building that was restored, and so I'll add a little bit more story to that, but I'm also going to add one of these lovely wreaths. So I put the adhesive on the back of this cardstock as well, and this is 2 tones cardstock I'm using. So the darker side, which is called the true colour, was up here, and then the wreaths are in the lighter side. Just a tiny bit of variation. You don't have to, you know, they're not near each other, so it doesn't matter, but I just like to have a bit of variation because in the flowers you had light and dark of that same colour. And I think this one can go here. Right, now I need to put my border strips on. So the easiest way to do this is to do the top and the bottom first, because the strips don't go to the center. They only go around the very outside. So, you know, I've only pulled back a little bit of the tape so that I can get that lined up, and then I will just do it in segments to get it all the way across. That's it. Now the reason we do the top and the bottom is so that the vertical strip is on the top of both of them. If you kind of work your way around, then this one's underneath, and then that corner, the vertical strip is underneath and the other one's on the top, and it's just not, oops, it's just not so pleasing to the eye. Got a bit carried away with myself there, pulling off the paper. It's not the end of the world, but your hands can tend to stick because it's good and strong adhesive. Oh, like what I did before double-sided adhesive came in. Back in the days, like 25 years ago, when I was card making, when I was first introduced to card making, this double-sided paper was called Jack paper, and I now realise that that was obviously a brand name. But I loved it then, and I love it still. Now I have just buttered these up square on the corners, right? See that? If you wanted to miter them, you could cut across before you stuck it down. But in all honesty, no one's going to notice. No one's going to see it, okay? So I'm always a bit anxious about the miter not being quite perfect. And so I just don't do it. Now, these little flowers, see these little flowers? Hold on. Yes, you can see these little flowers. I cut those from the scrap of leftover printed paper. You see lots of these flowers are the perfect size for the little flower die. And so I just went anywhere there was a biggish flower and cut them out so that it's got the same water wash look, because I did some experimenting with using pens, using water paint and different things like that, and I just couldn't get that sort of easily get the right colours and the right look for what I wanted. And so just using the paper, I know that it's going to match exactly the way I want it to. Now I'm just popping some of these on day, hanging off a little bit, and then I need to fix up my error here, so let's just add a couple up there, and maybe I'll put one down here to balance that out, and just a couple down here. I just used the mini dimensionals on these ones to pop them up a little bit higher. You totally could have them flat on the page as well. Right. Now the only other thing, apart from that little bit of journaling, the only other thing I want to do is use this white gel pen, and I want to go around the day like I did with the black here, Okay, so I'm just going to eyeball it. Nice smooth line, take your time, and you just start and stop a little bit away from the flowers. And that just helps the letters to stand out a little bit and look a little bit different. I do love this big font on day because you can do so much with it, with colouring it in different ways to dress it up. I thought about stamping little flowers on it, but again, because I wanted them to not be like really solid flowers, I wanted them to have that water wash look. That's why I went with the paper. And bonus, I've used up that whole sheet of printed paper. And the last thing that I'm going to pop on are some of these, now what are they called? Low profile dots. They are super, super flat, and I thought that the little peachy coloured ones toned in quite nicely. And they do have gold there as well. So I think I will put some around these flowers that are, that are hanging off the edge so that it looks like they were a planned addition. Dots are great for that. They just, you know, they just make that look like a cohesive unit instead of a, you know, a blobby bit, because we don't want blobby bits on our pages at all. And maybe one here. All right, and so that is the layout completed. Now, as promised, I will show you the other 4 layouts that I've made previously using this sketch. So the notion to design this sketch came up just as we were transitioning from Close to My Heart to Stampin' Up. And people were very conscious that they would need to be using up their Close to My Heart papers in order to bring in the beautiful Stampin' Up papers. So this was the first one, super fast. This is the one that's unadorned. Just put on photos. Obviously, it's going to be kid themed with these sorts of papers. So the photos are going to be busy and bright and energetic, and they'll be awesome just the way they are. Okay, so that one was a really quick. This one, this way. I used the corner rounder. So lots of you will still have one of those. They kind of have gone out of fashion, but I am partial to a corner round. So I did it on the outside corners, and when I put my photos on this one, I will also round these photos. Here I used, these were zip strips, branding strips that come on the Close to My Heart paper. So I used those as an extra decorative element. And then I bought in, these were left over from another project, black as just a bright pop of contrast, and then black dots. And that was a little sticker that came off a packet. The 2 hearts were cut from the same colour cardstock that was used on there. This next one is travel themed, and 2 extra photos can go up here as well. Or if I've got 3x4s, I could get 2 3x4s up here, or 2 3-inch squares. So I've kind of left that open to interpretation, because travel, I often have more photos, or I'll have photos that can be cropped in small because they're detail photos. Okay, so this is an example of when both sides are very busy. The other ones, one side was busy and one side was calmer. So this is an example of that. This is also an example of how you can decorate up the strip of cardstock. I did some stamping on that. I used some sentiments to stamp onto those along the way as well, and then leftover sticker that I had. So you can see how this one, you know, you can just use it over and over, and these all look different. And then this was my very first like paper pack. I think it's Unbounded Beauty that I bought with Stampin' Up, and I loved this. There's a floral pattern on both sides, but this is tone on tone and this is multicolored, so it really works. And I'm in love with the pretty peacock color, and these Spotlight on Nature dies were just divine. And for my dots on this one, I pulled out a couple of the colors that were in there and added a bit of texture. And that alphabet set from Stampin' Up is gorgeous too. So I hope that inspires you. If you have loved this, go ahead, look in the description. There'll be a link to download the handout, and then there'll be also a link for information if you would like to learn how you can get the other 9 instruction sheets that are coming out. They'll come out once a month over the next 9 months, just to help you each month use up the bits that you've got left over. Thanks for watching.